Thanks for joining me again. This is Danny Cardwell from ThoughtWrestler.blogspot.com. And in the book of Matthew, Jesus utters the sentence, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" A question that had no answer at the time, a question that scared many people that witnessed the crucifixion of Christ. This same sentence is uttered in the 22nd Psalm, and for me, it brings so much enlightenment into my Christianity. It is the reason I'm able to believe. Here we have Jesus, God incarnate in the form of man, the most powerful being in the universe, and he has been beaten, he has been humiliated, and he is nailed to a cross. And at that moment, he feels abandoned. He feels separated from God, and he feels vulnerable. And I think if all of us are honest, we could say that we have felt despair, we have felt vulnerable, and at times maybe we have felt separated from God. Those beliefs and those feelings are things that are part of the human existence. At some level, all of us have to go through the trials that this life brings us, the evil that can incur, and the things that happen in this life that have no rhyme or reason. Often we find ourselves wondering, why do good things happen to bad people, and why do bad things happen to good people? And those are questions that have no easy answers. We've seen suffering, we've seen horrible pain and anguish in this life, and we've seen wretchedness rewarded. And yet we all have to find ourselves in context of this suffering that's around us, in the pain that we see, and in the pain that is inevitable in this life. At some point, none of us are more human than we are when we look at our loved ones in the grave, in the coffin, or suffering. At that point, we can get all of the stuff that is filtered into our mind out, all the fantasies and all of the ideas about what life is and the things we use to distract ourselves. We can push them to the side and see what life is at its fullest. Every day we have an opportunity to make a difference with our life. And death for me is something that in many ways has the ability to end your life on the positive tone. You can die and leave lasting memories for folks, or you can die and not be remembered at all. And the difference is how we live and the things that we do and the choices that we make. Death and the functioning of memory is something that I've thought about off and on for years. And, not to bring people up or throw people under the bus, but, you think about somebody like O.J.Simpson. If O.J.Simpson had died on the football field in 1979, he would have been revered. He would have been someone that a lot of people would have had respect for. He might be on a postage stamp, who knows. And yet, he lived long enough to diminish the good name and reputation that he had. And those choices that he made did that to his reputation ultimately. You think about someone that died a hero, Roberto Clemente. He died serving the people of his country. He died doing philanthropy and helping people that were less fortunate than him. And he'll be canonized and ultimately remembered forever that way. In my life, I've heard great stories about Roberto Clemente and the charity work that he did. And the difference between those two is the way they lived up until their death. And all of us have that same ability. What we will be remembered for ultimately comes down to how we live. And being a Christian is about more than showing up at church, going to musical concerts, and eating a nice lunch afterwards. It has to cut through the superficial stuff in this society. It has to get inside your bones. It has to make you want to live a life that benefits those around you, that gives the glory to God, and that helps spread this gospel. And if it's not doing that for you, maybe we need to reassess that. I fail every day. I struggle every day. And yet I'm blessed to get up and try again. And so the way we're remembered will ultimately be determined by the way we live. And those things people say about us at the end of our lives, what will matter more than any of the money we've made, any of the accomplishments we've had, is ultimately how we treat people. There are a lot of very successful and rich people that have died that were never remembered in history for anything other than acquiring great wealth. There are people that died with no money in their pockets that are revered and that are loved because they gave so much of themselves to others. And so death and the functioning of our lives is something that we don't have to fear that we shouldn't fear. It's a reality that we can't escape. I had a professor who used to say that death is the one democratic experiment and notion in this life, that none of us are going to get out of here alive. And I've heard that bandied about in many places, but I mean, it's true. That's the one thing that equates all of us. There's nothing that we can do to escape it. And so with that in mind, we have to decide how we're going to live and how we're going to face it. And in the end, I think that's what determines who we are more than anything. So those are my thoughts. Thanks for joining me. Have yourself a great day. Peace.